Well, it's over. Thank God. We can finally stop covering non-Arizona Diamondbacks games. We're talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers becoming World Series champions in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Or maybe do. I don't know. No skis tonight. None at all. Welcome in. Live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. It's the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast. And please don't tell this man what I've been doing in his absence this entire time. But of course, here we are covering the end of it all. The World Series is over and the Los Angeles Dodgers are, I'm not going to say your champions. It's someone's champions. It's not my champion. It's not his champion. Kev, I don't know about him. He's questionable at best. But of course, welcome in to the show. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me is my vice mayor, my thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Freeman. And we witnessed I don't even know what to call this game. I mean, credit where credit is due. The Los Angeles Dodgers came back from a 5-run deficit to win Game 5 of the World Series by a score of 7-6 and clinch their 8th World Series title in franchise history. No team has ever come back from a 5-run or more deficit to clinch a World Series like the Dodgers did tonight. And as much as credit, you got to give credit where credit is due. It's mostly due to the fact that the Yankees made every possible error, every possible mistake, every possible gaffe in this game that you could draw up or imagine. And all of that was just in this one game. In this one game.
The Yankees blew it, Derek. I don't really
I mean, they
know.
blew it mostly in this series, but tonight was the epitome of that. Like there was no bigger blowing of it than what we saw tonight. I mean, especially when the Dodgers made their big comeback, how that inning went, all of those runs being scored with 2 outs, and a lot of them being scored because of mistakes made defensively by the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw someone tweet out. It turns out if you give the Dodgers 6 outs to work with in one inning, it's not a good idea. It's not going to end well for you. And that's exactly what happened in the 5th inning. The Yankees had a 5-0 lead going into that frame. A whole bunch of power showcased on their end early in this game. They get out to that 5-0 advantage. And then the 5th inning rolls around and it's a Kike Hernandez single. Okay, whatever. The leadoff man on base against Garrett Cole. Tommy Edman then reaches on one of the worst plays that you'll ever see in a World Series game, where Aaron Judge just inexplicably clanked a fly ball that was hit basically right to him.
Jesse was asked to break down the percentage of players that would miss that, and I think he went 0.0000001%.
Well, yeah, not like the percentage of play, like just what is the percent chance
of
in
that
Major
happening?
League Baseball of a Major League Baseball center fielder missing that ball?
It was
and
awful.
it was like 0.00. I mean, it's not 1 in 100. It's not 1 in 1,000. Like, we do not see that happen in Major League Baseball almost ever. And Aaron Judge, who has been, one of the best players on the planet in 2024, did have some good moments in this game, but that was not one of them. So that gets 2 guys on base with nobody out in that 5th inning. Then Will Smith reaches on a fielder's choice grounder. You and I were watching this one sitting right next to each other, and the moment that Anthony Volpe tried to go to third base, we both knew that was going to be disastrous. And sure enough, it was. Volpe bounced the throw. Jazz Chisholm wasn't able to handle it over there. So now it's bases loaded, nobody out. And the Yankees have made 2 errors, right? It should be runner at first with 2 outs at that point.
Right.
I mean, maybe that could have been a double play to end the inning. Like that conceivably could have happened.
And that's when you get the back-to-back strikeouts of Gavin Lux and Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, the narrative shifts, and it's like, all right, that Garrett Cole had been awesome up to that point in the game, and it was like, yeah, Garrett Cole has been awesome, and he's going to be awesome again. He's going to find a way to get the Yankees out of this mess, and he almost did. Until he forgot to cover first base, Derek, because with 2 outs and the bases loaded in that 5th inning, Mookie Betts hits a very slow roller off the end of the bat up the first baseline. Garrett Cole might have misread it a little bit. It had some weird spin on it, I guess. Winds up leading Anthony Rizzo a little bit further off the bag than maybe Garrett Cole anticipated. And Rizzo sort of took his time.
They kind of stared at each other.
Garrett Cole didn't cover the bag.
Yeah.
And it was just a horrendous look, and the inning continues.
My reaction to that was to place my face in my hands, Jesse, and think to myself, God damn it, Christian Walker is going to be a New York Yankee. Like when you have that happen to you in a World Series game that big, the immediate reaction has to be, I don't care how much money it costs. We need to go out and get the best defensive first baseman in all of baseball. The Yankees have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, Christian Walker's gone. He's gone.
I
anyway,
mean, that's
sorry.
That's
not
another
to bring
topic
the mood,
for another day.
Not to bring the mood down even more. That's just where my mindset is at. Yeah.
Yeah. The question of whether the Yankees are about to pick up Anthony Rizzo's $17 million option or whatever it is for next year.
He's gonna go back to Chicago.
I think we know the answer to that question. But yeah, but even at that point, right? Garrett Cole had still gotten 2 outs. Yes, that was a dumb play. It was the 3rd dumb play by the Yankees in the inning. And yet you still had an opportunity to get out of it with just 1 run allowed. And then Freddie Freeman comes up to the plate, right? And we all sort of know how that has gone for the Yankees during the course of this series. And Freddie Freeman knocks a 2-run single to center field, makes it a 5-3 game. And then Teoscar Hernandez follows that up with a 2-run double. And suddenly a 5-0 lead for the Yankees with their ace on the mound had completely evaporated, and they were responsible. Like, yes, give the Dodgers credit, but also you can't give the Dodgers 6 outs to work with in that inning, and that is exactly what the Yankees did.
And they even were able to come back and get the lead in the 6th inning on a 6-5 on Mike Stanton. Are we calling him Mike?
Yes. He was Mike Stanton during this year's
6-5
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could just feel like that wasn't enough against this Dodgers team. You could just feel like they were going to continue to pour it on. And then you have the 8th inning where it's Tommy Canley.
Yeah, Tommy Canley. I think
comes in, and I even knew he was going to throw changeups. I said to Jesse, "Here comes a changeup. There's going to be another changeup. It's going to be followed by a changeup." This man threw like 42 straight changeups in a row. And then what did he throw? A 43rd one. But he wasn't really fooling anyone. And, of course, it resulted in a bases-loaded situation.
It wasn't great. It was not great.
That's when Luke Weaver came into the game to try to get the Yankees out of it. And despite the fact they've been leaning on Weaver so heavily, and as a Diamondbacks fan, you can't help but love that, at least, to see Weaver, kind of having the success he's had over the last month and in the postseason. It was a little bit too much for him to come into and try to get him out of it. He gives up a sac fly to Gavin Lux that ties the game. Then you have another mistake by the Yankees where you had the Ohtani interference, the catcher's interference call that causes Ohtani to get on base.
It didn't technically factor into either of the runs that were scored in the inning.
Sure.
But it was still just
another mistake.
Yeah.
They made every mistake. There was a balk later on in the game, Jesse, due to forgetting how many disengagements there were. Like, the Yankees just didn't play flawless baseball. It's something that we've talked about throughout the last 3 post-game shows that we've done with every variety of person that has joined me on this show. It's been about the difference the way the Dodgers are playing versus the way the Yankees are playing. Even last night, the Yankees didn't play flawless baseball when they won that game, but they just had enough offense, that offensive explosion kind of happened. And you really felt like it was going to carry over to this game when they took that 5-run lead. You know, you just have that early domination over Jack Flaherty. They knock him out of the game early. You know, the Dodgers bullpen has been extremely taxed, and that did play a factor in this one because Dave Roberts eventually had to go to Walker Buehler there late in order to close this game out because of how early he had to go to his high leverage guys and his closer. But Jack Flaherty gives up that walk to Soto. He gives up a 2-run bomb to Aaron Judge. He gives up a back-to-back home runs because he gives up that Jazz home run, solo home run after that. And you just felt like this was like it was already going to game 6, which has never been done when a team is down 3-0 and still has never been done. Let's throw that up there. Yep, still no game 6s or game 7s for teams that go down 3-0 in the World Series. Our guy Shane found this to be egregious. Could not believe that there were no stronger willed teams in baseball than the 25 teams that have gone down 3-0 and have not made it past game 5. But it's too much to overcome. And usually if you're in that position, it's fairly hard to come back against a team that's as dominant as a team that's able to go up 3-0 in the World Series,
Yeah, it is really bizarre. I mean, I guess the Red Sox are that one team that has managed to actually come back from a 3-0 deficit, and they did that against the Yankees back in 2004.
Correct.
But yeah, it's really, really hard to do. And had the Yankees won today, like, I think they would have had a shot to come back and win this thing. I mean, going back to Los Angeles, winning both of those games is obviously tough, but if you find a way to win the first one, you have an off day in between to rest some of your bullpen arms. You find a way to win game 6, and obviously anything can happen in a game 7. So, but yeah, the Yankees, they just didn't play well enough. They just didn't do their part tonight. It was still a very entertaining baseball game. I mean, there was certainly a lot of back and forth. But they just fell short. And even after taking that 6-5 lead on Giancarlo Stanton's sac fly in the 6th inning, it still didn't feel safe. Like from the moment the Dodgers tied the game in the 5th, there was just this feeling in the air that the Dodgers were going to find a way to come back and finish the job. And sure enough, they did. I did not like I mean, do you ever like the matchup when you've got a guy coming in with the bases loaded, nobody out? Probably not. But Luke Weaver is a heavy fly ball pitcher. And so bring him in with the bases loaded and nobody out, the chance of at least one sac fly happening there was fairly high. And unfortunately for Weaver, it was 2 sac flies before he managed a strikeout to end that inning.
Garrett Cole, incredibly good for the Yankees. And again, I guess the bullpen effort by the Dodgers, pretty impressive considering that felt like Dave Roberts really, kind of ran out of pieces there in the end and goes to Walker Buehler, who's able to close it out. I do, you do have to tip your cap to the Dodgers and the way they just outplayed the Yankees in this entire series. They absolutely deserve credit for that. In this game, though, I do question how much credit, who deserves more credit, I guess. Do the Dodgers deserve more credit for that comeback and for again, doing something that's never been done before, overcoming a 5-run deficit and winning a clinching game in a World Series? Or do the Yankees deserve credit for playing this poorly in an elimination game and not giving a better effort? When I say playing poorly, I'm not even necessarily talking about the effort at the plate. I'm more talking about the excessive amount of mistakes that piled up and caused them to lose a game that they didn't lose by much. They lost by 1 run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the latter. I think the story of tonight is the Yankees blew it. I mean, when you take a 5-0 lead and I think the Yankees had 5 extra base hits to the Dodgers 1, like the Yankees altogether, what they were able to accomplish at the plate, pound for pound, was better than what the Dodgers were able to accomplish. There was more hard contact. There were more balls going in the seats for the Yankees than there were for the Dodgers. The Dodgers didn't even hit a home run in this game. But they just weren't able to do the little things. And that's kind of been a trend for the Yankees throughout the entire postseason. They've not really been known as a fundamentally sound team. And I guess for us, as people who cover the Diamondbacks and are used to watching their brand of baseball day in, day out, it's a little shocking to watch the Yankees at times. Like the number of base running mistakes that they made throughout the playoffs, all of the defensive miscues today. Torey Lovullo would not have been happy with this effort.
No, this would not have been Diamondbacks brand of baseball.
This is not Diamondbacks baseball, according to Torey Lovullo, and I don't think it was Yankees baseball either. At least the definition that Aaron Boone would have in his head. So to lose in this fashion on this stage at your home ballpark, I can't even imagine what the local talk radio scene is going to be like tomorrow in New York. It is not going to be pretty.
Someone in the chat had brought up like why we were rooting for the team with 27 championships, and I just want to say because that team that won 27 championships that they're playing is the Dodgers, and we hate them more than we hate any team.
You know, the jury is still out a little bit on how much you actually hate the Dodgers.
I mean,
there,
I didn't
so.
like. I have yet to drink a drop of champagne.
Damon has a bone to pick there. So.
Oh, Damon has a bigger bone to pick with Kevin and Kevin's. I just hope both teams have a good time and play a good game.
That's not my point.
Excuse me. Let me introduce him because I haven't. It's our producer on the ones and twos, large intimate himself, Kevin Thomas.
Yeah, no, me and Damon actually are having that conversation on Twitter right now, actually.
You're still continuing it.
Yeah.
Damon left, and they were arguing while Damon left, and then they had to continue through social
Damon's
media.
upset that the unfortunate logical conclusion happened, that the team that spent the most money grotesquely won, which is super unfortunate for us here with the smaller budget, right? But, I mean, we're just belly aching right now at this point.
Yeah, and technically, I believe the Yankees had a higher payroll than the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, technically they did, but that factors in that 68 of Shohei Ohtani's $70 million salary is deferred. So they've got some other deferrals on other guys too.
They figured things out over there, but again, it sucks because they're our division rival. The only silver lining here, the only hope that I will grasp onto, my copium I will smoke is, Jesse, this is that maybe, just maybe, the Dodgers pull a Rangers next year and don't even make the playoffs like the Rangers did after winning the World Series. Maybe they'll just be so satisfied with winning one, much like my fantasy football championship from last season that I never talk about on this show because I'm very humble and I would never bring it up. But just as an example, I didn't feel like it would be right for me to come out of the gate this season and destroy my opponents once again like I did last season. I felt like that was kind of, big timing, especially guys like Kevin that are new to the league and stuff like that. I wanted to give someone else a chance since I already won the championship last year.
Yeah, so he lost 4 games in a row to start the year.
Yeah, exactly.
On purpose.
Exactly, on purpose. Maybe the Dodgers will do the same thing next year. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm proposing. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I'm sure they'll sign a couple of free agents that'll just help make that team better. And then Shohei Ohtani is going to be a pitcher as well as a DH. And he might even manage the team a little bit. I'm not sure. And we will see them continue to haunt our dreams and our nightmares.
What's really crazy is that Ohtani didn't do like anything in the World Series. And the Dodgers still won 4-1.
Right.
Shohei Ohtani in the World Series went 2 for 19 with a double and 5 strikeouts and a caught stealing. That is a 385 OPS from the Dodgers' best player. And it didn't really matter because Freddie Freeman decided he was going to hit a home run in basically every single game. And Mookie Betts had a pretty good postseason at large. Some moments during the World Series as well. So yeah, I mean, this Dodgers team is just really deep, and that's the advantage of having 3 of the best players on the planet. Is that if one of them isn't going so well, you can still win. You can still win anyway. It doesn't really matter all that much.
You'll just have another one step up, or you'll have Tommy Edman do it, or you'll have Kike Hernandez do it, or you'll have one of the guys that hit 7, 8, 9 all of a sudden be a hero. Like again, like Freddie Freeman deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done and how good he's been specifically in this World Series. Like especially considering, like you said, he was doing what Shohei did in the World Series during the postseason for the most part. He was hobbled on one good foot.
He was hobbled,
and he was not doing well. And then the playoff or the World Series come around like they do, he steps up and is incredible. He had a 6-game home run streak in the World Series dating back to his time with the Braves. And again, just going through a lot this season. When it comes to what Freddie Freeman has gone through this particular season, I think he's the guy that no matter how angry you are because of them being our rival, no matter all this Dodger Diamondback stuff, that's one man that you have to be happy for, because he has gone through a tremendous amount. And I mean, still has a lot of things outside of baseball that are much bigger than even winning the World Series going on. And he still was able to, kind of deal with that and then still be a part of this team. So
Yeah.
you got to be happy for Freddie, but you can also understandably not be happy for any Dodger, and I wouldn't blame you. I'm never beating the allegations. I'm just glad this is over so I don't have to continue to explain myself when it comes to things like that particularly. But
there are definitely great storylines with individual players, right? Like, say what you will about the Dodgers as a team and all the money they spent and the fact that, like, they weren't underdogs, right? I don't think any of us really buy that narrative necessarily.
No.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't some cool stories of individual players on the team. Freddie Freeman, certainly at the top of that list. He's your World Series MVP. Walker Buehler being the guy who came in, entered a tough situation in the ninth. He was the ninth pitcher that Dave Roberts used in this game, if my calculations are correct. And he was sort of the last guy standing out there. I mean, David had used pretty much all of his options. Blake Trinan had a heck of a game, going 2 1/3 innings. Trinan is really another good storyline there. But yeah, I think you have to separate like the machine that is the Dodgers and all of the things that come with that and the money that they spent and all those narratives with, like, yeah, these are human beings at the end of the day. And that doesn't mean they're all terrible people just because they play for the Dodgers. There are some Diamondbacks fans that need to hear that tonight. So
I don't know. I think you're okay with claiming everybody's a terrible person over there just based on the way that they're financially set up. Okay. And I think that's the thing, is this once again confirms that the Dodgers were head and shoulders better than a lot of teams in baseball this year. And when you are an underdog team in the division like the Diamondbacks are, it sucks to see this. Again, I joke about, them pulling a Texas Rangers next year, but I secretly hope
it's not
that,
the World Series hangover is well documented.
Right.
It does happen.
And
yeah.
I mean, again, this just happened to be the year, like they said, this actually happens less often than we would believe in baseball. It just, it sucks when you look back at the years of World Series winners, and it's the usual suspects now. Going back to 2020, you have the Dodgers winning 2. You have the Braves in there. You have the Astros in there. You have that one Texas Rangers year that seems kind of fun now. But, overall, it was terrible. That was a terrible year, that one I just brought up, at least for us, right? So overall, it just feels like it's suffocating because, we already have this massive Goliath to beat in the division, and to go see, I guess, no team be able to stop them. Like, it does. You feel a little powerless right now as a Diamondbacks fan, because you just saw them, their plan of going out and getting Ohtani work perfectly. And, even though he didn't factor into the World Series, he definitely factored in throughout the season, and he factored in throughout the playoffs at times. So, again, it's sickening that it all worked out in their favor the way that it did.
Yeah. I mean, it is like this wasn't the Dodgers team that we envisioned they would be. I mean, they won 98 games, which is a lot, but they didn't win 115, right? This wasn't as good of a baseball team as we envisioned. And granted, a lot of that was due to injury. But also, I think the Dodgers, that those injuries are not all bad luck, right? Like when you fill a team with Tyler Glasnow and guys who have very sketchy injury track records, it's not necessarily a huge surprise when you're stacking your injured list like crazy. But yeah, the Diamondbacks were a team that competed with the Dodgers for the division into the second half of the season, well into the second half of the season, right? Like, it's not all that long ago that the Dodgers were coming to Arizona for 4 games, and the D-backs had a chance to make a statement and make up some ground in the division and really be a factor in the NL West. But obviously, that's not the way that the Diamondbacks season ended. They finished 9 games behind the Dodgers, and everyone played extremely well as they were not playing so well.
Well, one person was pointing out that we're depressing them, and we made it worse now than it was an hour ago. And then Yoshi had to come in.
I don't think there's any way for us to win on a podcast like this, unfortunately.
Mustachio Mike, I saw your comment earlier. This is the last time we're a Dodgers podcast, but we do have to cover baseball.
We never were a Dodgers podcast. I have to
be fair, I can understand
beef with that characterization.
The allegations
of what we
were
did.
there, Jesse. If you go back and look, I don't think we did any post-game shows that did not involve the Dodgers. But again, that's mostly your fault. Piece of Yoshi reminding us Nick Ahmed won a ring, and that's caused a lot of people to be even sadder than they were.
It felt like Nick Ahmed was going to win a ring no matter what. Yeah,
because he was on
how many different teams,
right?
I mean, he was on like 3, I think.
Okay,
the Dodgers and Padres were the only realistic options there, but that is sort of what it felt like.
Yeah. Anyway, I also saw a wonderful comment there from Sean about joining our Discord, which again, honestly is a really great place to be, even on a terrible night like this, because you can find very, very like-minded people that also feel the same way that you feel together and lament. Sean says, only positive tonight was being a part of the Discord for the first time. Diehard membership is a must. Can't wait for there to be D-backs games next season. We can't either. We're done with this. Washing our hands of doing any kind of post-game shows not about the Diamondbacks. Maybe some Salt River Rafters games, but that's to be determined. But we do very much appreciate you joining us, Sean, over here as a diehard. And I do have to tell you guys, if you aren't a diehard, now is the best time to join. And this is a limited time offer, so it's not going to be around for too long. So make sure if you are not a diehard, you hop on this introductory offer that we have right now. $48 for the first year. It comes down to just $4 a month, billed annually at $48. And of course, again, less than a cup of coffee these days. We are building something special here, and we want you to be a part of it. We have all sorts of wonderful options that we offer as part of our diehard membership, including a free t-shirt from the PHNXlocker.com. Get all sorts of discounts on our events. Of course, you get our premium content. Jesse does some amazing work over at gophnx.com, so you will get all of his writing. You also get all of our shows that we do for diehards only, including Ask Archie, which is become a favorite amongst the diehards, and so much more that we have to offer. So please join us over here. Again, that's a limited time offer. So that Discord lounge, though, that's the biggest selling point. It is the best place to be an Arizona sports fan. And of course, we've met some incredible people thanks to you guys becoming diehards. But again, we get to hang out with you every day in the Discord lounge. So that always makes it fun. Unless, of course, it's Mark trying to tell people that the sharpshooter isn't somehow one of the most elite finishing moves in all of pro wrestling, which is just crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, on the other side of this break, as much as many of you are going to hate this, we're going to talk about this game just a little bit more, and then we'll be done with it, I promise. And then we'll maybe just talk about some connections to Arizona and what the Diamondbacks were doing on this day just 1 year ago. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Of course, Empire Today has been a staple of the Valley for many, many years. And of course, if you are looking to make some improvements to your home and put in some new flooring, Empire Today will get you covered with shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Most importantly, they will help you find exactly what you're looking for and provide you a curated product selection, so you don't have to look through thousands of samples to find one that's perfect for your needs. They also, their philosophy is to, again, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices. They also have their virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how any new flooring will look in any space. You just have to take a picture and you can see how that flooring will look. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Jesse, what's the jingle?
It's like Empire Today.
They nailed it.
I thought you were gonna do.
I don't know. You
Isn't it?
nailed it.
I was
though.
supposed to tee
I know.
it
I
up,
was
and then you were
just
supposed to
enjoying
finish it.
the great.
It was an
version you were doing.
alley-oop.
Is it still the same number? Is it still 800-588-2300?
But who calls? Nobody calls. They do it on the internet now. Come on.
Okay, well,
Step
Get
into
with-
the 21st
get with the
century.
times, Cat.
Yeah, get with the
Gosh.
times.
You know.
Speaking of getting with the times, download the Bet365 app, because that is definitely with the times right now. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting. I hopped in on that, made myself a little money on tonight's game, and you can do the same. Of course, if you're a new customer, you can choose between two offers when you open up an account at Bet365. Use that code of PHNX365 to sign up, deposit $10, and choose between either a bet and get offer where you can place a $5 bet, and receive $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you can place up to a $1,000 bet. And if your qualifying bet loses, you will receive a match refund in bonus bets. Download the Bet365 app, use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up, choose your offer, and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over, physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. All right, well, of course, again, not to dwell too much more on the Dodgers stuff, we could dwell a little bit on the bad Jack Flaherty, who we thought the Tigers made a huge mistake in trading at the deadline, considering what they were able to do in the playoffs. They kind of
did, yeah.
Yeah, he went on to have a 7.36 ERA in the playoffs, so...
Yeah, which is wild to me, again, that the Dodgers managed to do this, even though the guy, he was their number one starter throughout the postseason. He had an ERA over 7, and granted, there was the one game where he gave up 8 runs in 3 innings against the Mets, which sort of skewed the numbers a little bit. But yeah, he was not particularly good in the postseason for the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani was not particularly good. I mentioned he went 2 for 19 in the World Series. He had a OPS in the 760s. I think it was 766 throughout the postseason as a whole. So Ohtani in the playoffs was maybe not quite what people hoped he would be, although there were certainly some big moments along the way. And on the Yankees side, I guess the equivalent story is that Aaron Judge was not particularly great in this postseason as a whole. It's frankly very impressive that the Yankees were able to get this far when the guy who has been the best hitter in the league since Barry Bonds, essentially. I mean, that's how good Aaron Judge was, particularly this season and over the last couple of years. In the postseason, Aaron Judge was really not very good at all. He had an OPS in the mid 700s. He had a batting average in the 180s. And this has become a bit of a trend. If you look at his career numbers in the postseason, Judge has not really stepped up in the way that you'd like to see him step up. So I'm sure that will be a big topic of conversation over the offseason for the Yankees is Aaron Judge does he fold in the postseason? Is he a guy who just can't handle the pressure? I don't think there's necessarily great evidence for that at this point, but I understand where people are coming from.
Well, if we were to give a king snake out, which we're not, and we don't do that anymore because we learned our lesson, it would probably go to Freddie Freeman, but we didn't, and we're not, and we didn't. So he's not. So he's not king snake. But if we were, just hypothetically, and had to pick a person, it would probably be Freddie Freeman. But that's only because he ends up with a slash line of 300, 364, 1,000 with 4 home runs, 12 RBI, a double, 2 walks, and 22 plate appearances in the World Series. Just incredible.
Yeah, he was outrageous. Yeah, and after really not doing much of anything for the Dodgers in the first couple rounds, right? I think he had an OPS in the mid 500s in the playoffs coming into this series. That ankle injury obviously playing a pretty big role there. But again, when you've got that many superstars on one team, plus Tommy Edman, who basically was he really was part of the big 3 for most of the playoffs. It felt like. Sorry,
there was a little box on the
You really didn't have a choice but to do that. Tommy Edman hit 328 in the playoffs, and that just happened. And the Dodgers really didn't trade much of anything in order to acquire him and Michael Kopech. Somehow that was a joint deal that it still feels like the Cardinals and the White Sox forgot to ask the Dodgers to make their contribution to that 3-way deal. It ended pretty well for the Dodgers in retrospect.
Seb Swo's here. It's officially a party. Hello, Seb Svo. We're sorry we have to talk about Dodgers and Yankees for just a little bit longer, but then we'll get it out of our system and never talk about them again. However, it is that, like I said earlier, it's that looming feeling of doom that, like, yes, the season's over. We can wash our hands. It's post, but it's the off season. The Diamondbacks can regroup. I know that they're going to obviously have some changes made, and I'm pretty excited to see how they handle how they navigate this off season. But you also know that even though the Dodgers won this championship, that it's inevitable. We're still going to have to compete with them. We're still going to have to keep up with them, and they're still going to not be satisfied with this. They're still going to try to improve that team next year, and they're going to continue to have the money to do so, right? So there is that feeling of dread about watching the Dodgers win this World Series, and that part sucks. But again, it's baseball, and this situation where it's the Yankees versus the Dodgers in the World Series actually rarely ends up happening. But again, you've seen the way that the Dodgers have dominated the NL West over these years, and again, if they can do this with their pitching staff kind of being as broken as it was, then I am terrified to see how they can do with Ohtani as part of it, and maybe making some improvements. So, but we'll get to that, and we will see how that happens. Just like the Diamondbacks, we have a lot of moves to be made by the Diamondbacks, and definitely some positional needs to fill, come this offseason. So, but let's take a look one last time at the count presented by our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union for this game. Dodgers win. They outscore the Yankees 7-6. The Yankees actually out-hit the Dodgers 8-7. The runners in scoring position, Yankees were just 1 for 10 to the Dodgers 3 for 12. Dodgers only had one extra base hit, Jesse, to the Yankees,
allowing
5.
The fact that the Dodgers scored 7 runs with one extra base hit sort of tells you everything.
And
you
this
need to
isn't
know.
the first time this postseason that they've done that either. They've had a couple of other games where like their only extra base hit was a double, and that still they managed to score 9 runs, or at least more than 5 runs. And again, that's what that lineup will do to you. They don't really need to do too much because they know, like it was just ridiculous at one point, because we're sitting there going like, oh well, if he gets on, if Lux gets on, then you're going to have to roll over to Ohtani, and then you have this just nightmare stretch of guys, and the guys in the bottom of the order were doing it to the Yankees in this series, and it was just kind of endless for them. So again, the future is still exciting, but a little terrifying when it comes to playing this particular team in our division the way that we have to play them. But now we're done with this. Now we can move on. We have a lot of stuff to cover, of course. Again, not to bring up that first base situation, but probably a big change over at first base for the Diamondbacks this offseason. So we will be covering that, and no more Dodgers games. I promise.
We have some breaking news actually here, Derek.
What is the
post game? And it's tangentially Diamondbacks related, actually. Diamondbacks legend Daniel Hudson has announced his retirement. This is according to Bill Plunkett, who covers the Dodgers, I believe, at the LA Times, actually the Orange County Register. He said, this is Daniel Hudson's statement. He said, "This was the only reason I came back, to go out on top, and that's what's happening." So Daniel Hudson, at the age of 37, has announced his retirement. And my theory that in the year 2054, Daniel Hudson would still be pitching the 8th inning for the Los Angeles Dodgers, unfortunately, has been disproven. Yep. So, it's unfortunate, but a great career that Daniel Hudson had. I know it wound up being, a lot of his biggest moments were with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which maybe sours his Diamondbacks tenure a little bit in some ways, but he really was a great story in Arizona. I mean, having 2 Tommy John surgeries, managing to come back and be a pretty effective reliever for the Diamondbacks as well. He was a big weapon for them late in games, especially in one particular season. He was one of the best things about the Diamondbacks for a while. One of the best storylines for sure. And I know he'll be missed across the game.
Yeah, good for Huddy, man. Again, if you're looking for things, because I understand, like you're not happy tonight. We're not happy. Nobody in the Diamondback community is happy, but there are people you can be happy for. Like I said earlier about Freddie Freeman, I think being happy for Huddy is big, and he is forever a part of this franchise and this organization. So congrats to Huddy. And we have some more connections to Arizona to talk about as well. So of course we are going to do that here. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a little break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about that. We also have some more breaking news, some more tweets. One from Corbin Burns I don't like very much that we're going to address. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Well, baseball it's a wrap, but there are many other sports to check out, including a very hot Phoenix Suns team, our Arizona Cardinals, and so much more. So do not miss out on going to these events and getting your tickets last minute through our friends at Game Time. Game Time will save you up to 60% off by buying tickets last minute. And they have their Game Time Picks feature, which allows you to filter out the fluff and find just the best deals. That way you don't have to search through all of those tickets to find the best deal. And Game Time Picks will show you the great seats, great deals, and you don't have to waste time, again, finding those good tickets for your favorite live events. Right now, you can get all-in pricing where you see what your total cost is, so there's no surprise at checkout, as well as you check out a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase it to make sure you like where you're sitting. Sometimes those tickets can be deceiving as to where they actually are located, so I suggest you use that. And of course, Game Time is an aesthetically pleasing app, so make sure to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Jesse, what time is it?
It is game time.
It is game time. Also, we are proud to partner together with Sanderson Ford. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, make sure to check out Sanderson Ford. You can go all electric in a Mach-E and get 1.5% financing for 72 months plus $500 cash back. You can also choose Sanderson Ford and get new 2024 F-150 trucks with 3.9% APR financing for 60 months plus $1,000 cash back. And if you trade in your Ram truck, get rid of that old Ram truck, you get an additional $2,000 cash back. Get it all with no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense. At Sanderson Ford, offers OAC from Ford Credit and expire tomorrow on Halloween, 10/31. For your next vehicle purchase or lease, choose the dealership that gives back and pays it forward. See dealership for details. Well, again, Jesse, we talked there about Daniel Hudson and his connection to Arizona, but he wasn't the only one in the Fall Classic that has a connection to Arizona. Of course, there's many familiar names on both of these teams. The Yankees had quite a few, including former Arizona Diamondback, or former member of the organization, I should say, Jazz Chisholm. He was pretty electric for the Yankees, even though overall, Jazz is still one of those guys to me that produces more electricity than his numbers and his stats would suggest. I think they said he was, 1 for 24 or something with runners in scoring position. But he continues to just be that guy. Like, you could tell watching him on the Yankees that he's a great fit for that team, to be honest. And he really does inject some life into them, even if he's not really producing at the dish.
Yeah, he didn't have a good postseason overall. Jazz went 10 for 55. He had a 559 OPS. Did hit the home run today, which was a cool moment. But he was still really big for the Yankees. I mean, this is a team that really needed some additional depth in their lineup, and they just decided to teach him how to play third base, apparently, after he arrived in New York, and it seemed to work at least well enough, I guess.
Except on that one
Jazz,
play.
Yeah, I mean, that was more on Anthony Volpe, I think. But yeah, Jazz is still a really fun player to watch when he's at his best, and he is still a pretty good player, even though, as you said, I would agree, his numbers are not necessarily as flashy as what you see on the field at times. But I really, just as a baseball fan in general, I would have loved to see Jazz play hero at some point in this game. He had some opportunities there late.
Jesse was begging for it at times. He really was.
It's just, I mean, I'm just rooting. Right. I'm rooting for the best storylines, and I think Jazz Chisholm coming through with a 2-run homer that sort of puts the game away or whatnot at the end would have been really cool. Obviously, his history with the Diamondbacks, if you're a D-backs fan, you still do the Zach Gallen Jazz Chisholm trade 100 times out of 100. Yes. There's no debating that. But it doesn't mean that, you have to wish poorly upon Jazz now that he's in another organization. Maybe even makes it easier for you to root for him. And he did have some cool moments this postseason, even though it didn't end the way he would have liked.
We also had a lot of guys from Tucson that basically made an impact here in the World Series.
Do we claim the people who are from Tucson as legitimate Arizonans?
Wow.
First of all, whoa.
I'm not sure that is necessarily.
I'm like, that's a crazy
what are we
move
talking
to
about?
pull, considering that Damon works in this building and will be in this building at the same time as you.
And I'm currently in the room with you right now.
You got Large Hitzman over here who you're offending, and I don't like that one bit.
But Kev is from St. Louis.
I
So-
spent half a decade in Tucson.
He's gonna defend him.
And
But you're not proud of it though, right?
why are you putting words in my
you're-
mouth?
Like
That's
you're
crazy to
you're
say.
much happier now living in a civilized
Whoa!
society.
Who's the
Phoenix?
who's your favorite now, Chet? Huh? Who's the bad guy now,
I did not expect
Chet?
this. I did not expect this heel turn from Jesse today.
I
did
feel
not.
like there's a certain type of Phoenician who likes to kind of just hate on Tucson a little
With
bit,
such arrogance.
and I happen to be one of them. So
Well, you got Austin Wells, who was a catcher for U of A in 2019 and 2020, obviously making a big impact for the Yankees, right? But that wasn't the only Austin making an impact for the Yankees, Jesse. You also had Austin Capabianco,
yes,
which if you are not familiar with that
made-
name,
he made a larger impact.
that
than
is the
any of
man that
others.
wrestled the ball away from Mookie, or attempted. He failed. He attempted to wrestle. Well, I guess he did knock it out of his hand. Wrestled the ball away from Mookie Betts in game 4 of this series. He apparently went to U of A, played hockey at the university, and is friends with one Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah,
Are you surprised by that? That somebody that Gronk knows would pull that move that gentleman pulled particularly?
I guess I shouldn't be.
You
right?
shouldn't be.
I guess I shouldn't be. I did. So I was flying back to Arizona during the game yesterday. So I did not see the interference when it initially happened. But people were texting me. I was able to text while I was on the plane, and people were texting me about how wild it was. And I watched it, and I thought it was just hilarious because it felt like, I mean, yes, it was very ill-advised. And if you're going to a Major League Baseball game, please don't do that, because you are sort of putting Major League players in harm's way, which is not a good thing. But also, it was kind of funny because, as you said, it wasn't your prototypical, like, I'm trying to get up in your business and catch the ball instead of you. It was, you've already caught the ball, and I am just going to rip it out of your glove.
It's sociopath behavior. It's incredible how ridiculous this behavior actually was. And more importantly, after a few innings in this game, I started to believe that this man changed the course of the Yankees' history here in the World Series.
If the Yankees had won today and found a way somehow to win the next 2 games,
he would have been heralded. He would have had his own float in the parade. You know what I mean?
He absolutely would have become not necessarily the central storyline,
but
of
like
the
a
Yankees
cult
winning the
hero
World
for
Series,
Yankees
but
fans.
100% like the anti-Steve Bartman, right?
Yeah.
Like on the other side of history.
Because when these things happen, they happen so fast, right? And like usually when fan interference occurs, you can almost tell it's someone they weren't thinking. They just their main focus was that a baseball was flying towards them. They have a glove on, and they're going to do whatever it takes to catch the ball. We've seen this from the 12-year-old kids at the Fall League Home Run Derby. They're vicious. They will do whatever it takes to get the ball away from you. They will step on your throat. And this is the same approach that this man had in this case. He would do whatever it takes. More importantly, I still can't get out of my mind that one of the gentlemen sitting next to him was wearing the mitt that the players wear
That
to
was unbelievable.
slide. And like
the Evo Shield, dude,
yeah,
that was
the Evo
unbelievable.
Shield, right?
Yeah.
And like it's crazy. Everything in that scene is crazy. The
wasn't-
fact that it happened is crazy.
It wasn't even Yankees colors; it was teal. It was like an emerald teal color.
I don't understand it, but more importantly, it's just crazier that this man has a connection to our great state and went to the University of Arizona, which again I'm not surprised by in any way, because they produced some of the craziest freaking people I've ever met.
Do you
in my
remember
life.
when the Reds were in town and Spencer Steer had a
Yes!
fly ball to left
Wrestled
field.
away from him by a
Wrestled
small
away.
child.
Yes. Yeah, that's sort of what this was like, right? And nobody was hating on that child after the
Well,
fact.
Jesse, as
That
a grown
child
man,
was a
you
hero.
absolutely should not lose a battle to a small child unless it's at the Arizona Fall League Home Run Derby, which, again, they're small piranhas. They will take you out at the ankles. It's amazing what those kids will do to get a fly ball.
It was less cool what the guy's pal was doing, where he was like physically trying to hold Mookie Betts back.
Yeah.
That's a little sketchy behavior.
You're right.
But
You're right.
But having
the
Mookie,
clam pry, like he was prying open a clam to get the pearl inside. It was weird, but it was comical.
I thought that was funny. Yeah, because at that point, as the fan, you know that there's no way you're actually affecting the game. Like, that is the most obvious incident of fan interference ever. It is already in Mookie Betts' glove. You are trying to pry the ball out of his glove. It's more like you're kind of trying to make a statement at that point rather than actually influence the game. And it did sort of feel like he had an impact on the game somehow, some way.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, he's no good luck charm because he wasn't present for them to win the games. But it doesn't mean that he didn't light a fire under the team. He lit a fire under Anthony Volpe. That's for sure in that game. But someone else who has had a fire lit under him for like the last 2 months has been Luke Weaver. Again, former Arizona Diamondback, another connection back here. Sad that Weaver ends up being the one that gives up, those sack flies and stuff. I still think he did a good job in this series, in this game, and overall for the Yankees. He's been an incredible asset for them down the stretch, and they've leaned heavily on him because of, I guess, Aaron Boone's belief in him. They do have a club option, I believe, for Weaver this postseason, and I can't imagine them not picking that up after the way he pitched in the playoffs.
That might be the easiest decision that the Yankees make this winter. Luke Weaver was just outstanding for them. Of course, wound up taking over the closing role down the stretch, and in the postseason, they leaned on him heavily. There's a reason that with the bases loaded and nobody out in the 8th inning in a must-win game, that Aaron Boone was calling for Luke Weaver. Right, he has risen to that level of trust in this Yankees bullpen. And deservedly so. I mean, he had a 2.89 ERA in the regular season. In the playoffs, he was nails pretty much all the way through. The Yankees don't get here without Luke Weaver.
And then one last connection, of course, Aaron Verdugo lived in Tucson, went to Saguaro High School, and also had a very embarrassing at-bat to end this ballgame.
Well, he's from Tucson, so what do you expect?
There it is. Zing! Got his ass. All right. Well, 1 year ago today, Jesse, the Arizona Diamondbacks were playing their own World Series game. It seems like a lifetime ago, considering all that we've experienced over this season, right? And here we are. Another World Series has come and gone, but at this time last year, the Diamondbacks were losing Game 3 of the World Series, unfortunately. And they fell down in the series 2-1. It was wild to me thinking back about that World Series again. And I guess this was indicative of their season last year, but all of we're back and it's over, comments that we made, right? But the World Series couldn't have felt more like that. Game 1, they were up. They end up losing Game 1. You felt pretty devastated about that, considering how close that was to being in the palm of your hand, and you just let it slip away. They come back in Game 2 in Arlington. They win that one, and you feel pretty good about them splitting the series there in Texas, and then coming back home for 3 games at Chase Field. Felt like they were in the driver's seat, and unfortunately, that was not the case at home at Chase Field, and the Diamondbacks went on to lose their World Series by a count of 4-1.
Yeah, a year ago today was just a brutal day for the Diamondbacks. I mean, it was kind of a hinge point in that series. It was 1-1, right? I've gone on the record saying that after the Diamondbacks took Game 2 of the World Series, I thought they were going to win the thing. And you're in pretty good position when you split on the road. You got 3 games at home. It felt to me like the Diamondbacks were the better team on paper. And in Game 3, it just felt like everything that could have gone wrong did in some ways, or at least there was a pileup of just small moments throughout the game that kept them from ultimately winning. And you can go down the list. There were missed calls you can point out. There was Christian Walker rounding third and not seeing Tony Perez-Chica's stop sign and running through and getting thrown out. There were a lot of really tough moments for the Diamondbacks throughout that game, and it wasn't like it felt over afterward necessarily. I mean, they were down 2-1. They still had a shot, but in retrospect, that's the one that they really needed.
Yeah. Maybe don't pitch to Corey Seager.
Yeah, that's another lesson that they probably learned in that. Well, I guess they didn't really learn that lesson in that game because they sort of continued to pitch to Corey Seager the entire series, kind of inexplicably. But it is still crazy to me after watching Dodgers Yankees and the spectacle that was, to imagine that a year ago right now the Diamondbacks were on the exact same stage. And granted, there were not as many people watching. The viewership with the ratings were as low as they've ever been for a World Series, right? Not really shocking to anyone, but it is still wild to me to think that a year ago right now, the Diamondbacks were one of two teams left standing, right? Yeah. It's still, I don't know if it's ever going to be normal to me that the Diamondbacks in 2023, when they won 84 games, found a way to go that far.
And we spoke about this yesterday with our friend Dalton Feely from John Boy, but I couldn't help but bring this up to you before we wrap, and that is, after watching the Dodgers win this World Series, I guess my other version of coping with it is that I don't feel confident at all that we would have seen the Diamondbacks make that similar run this year, right? However, I would have said that about their run last year before it started, right? Fair. And we've said that over and over again. I'm sure we repeated that quite a bit. But again, I still feel like after watching this Dodgers team in the playoffs do what they did, that had the Diamondbacks met up with them at any point, that it wouldn't have gone the same way. Now remember, the Diamondbacks fared quite a bit better against the Dodgers in their postseason matchup than the Yankees did here, or any other team did, sweeping them and beating the crap out of them, I will happily say. But that was a very different Dodgers team. I mean, it had very similar components. Like, they did a great job of holding Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in that series and not letting those guys beat them. But again, this team is different, and I don't know. I don't feel very confident that the Diamondbacks would have found a way to put it together once the playoffs started like they did last year.
I mean, the biggest difference between this year's Dodgers team and last year's Dodgers team in the playoffs, it wasn't Ohtani, it was Tommy Edman, Derek. Who knows? MVP. The Diamondbacks swept the Dodgers in last year's NLDS. If Tommy Edman is on that team, they're lucky to win it in 5. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we don't know what the future holds with the Dodgers in the NL West. Things, like I said earlier, don't look great. But hey, again, it's baseball and anything can happen. That's the fun of not only the baseball season, but these playoffs. This particular one worked out in a way where all the number one seeds pretty much kind of fell in line. And you had the Mets, which were a fun story. You had a lot of fun stories, I felt like. But overall, what were your thoughts on this postseason? Like, do you think this was a fun one, a memorable one to watch?
Yeah, I think it was. And as much hate as the Dodgers Yankees matchup got, and understandably so, I do think that objectively it was pretty good for the sport. I don't know if there's really ever been as many eyes on a World Series matchup as there was for this one, or at least not in a very long time. So, and granted, that matchup was not maybe as epic as we figured it might be. It was 4-1. It was fairly one-sided, but it was still fun. Like, games like this were still very memorable in their own ways, and there were a lot of fun storylines along the way. The Detroit Tigers doing what they did, the Guardians hanging around for as long as they did after a really disappointing season last year, the Mets going on the run that they did with all of the OMG and the pumpkin and all of the crazy storylines underlying that. Grimace, of course, that can't forget.
Killed
that
the Fry
one.
Guys. I don't know if you know that. He sacrificed them to
he
Ronald
did.
McDonald's.
He did.
Ghost.
So yeah, I think this will go down as a really solid postseason for Major League Baseball in terms of just the viewership, the interest, all of those things were good. For the Diamondbacks, from their perspective, next year you just have to find a way to get in, right? Who knows how far the Diamondbacks could have gone if they had just managed to
make it.
To make it. Yeah, to not blow the 8-run lead in Milwaukee, or to not get totally destroyed by Randy Vasquez.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that either. Well, Roger Beshins, who's here, and he's not talking about the football slider for once, says, would Strom, Fetters, Carlson been fired if the D-backs simply made the playoffs? Even if they didn't have a good run, would they have been fired? I don't know. The numbers were pretty damning against the pitching staff, but the Diamondbacks' measurement of success might have been different. We talked about the Phillies making some big changes and being very upset with how their playoff run went after they had a good season, right? So the Diamondbacks, I don't know if they would have been as drastic as to see it be a failure if they didn't do well in the playoffs had they made it. I think the thing that really left the bad taste in their mouth is not making the playoffs. And, yes, that's parts that really sucks. RA was complaining that we have become a Diamondbacks doomer podcast. Well, when the Dodgers won the World Series literally about an hour and a half ago, I can't figure out a way to be more positive about things right now. I'll sleep on it. I'll come back tomorrow, and I will try better. I will try to be more positive.
We'll have Archie.
Usually we're accused of being too positive, in fact. Like, that's usually the route we go down. It's hard to be positive watching these teams do these things, but we'll find a way to do it. And honestly, the Diamondbacks probably will too. Like, they're still a very competitive team. The majority of this team is staying together, and I think that things will be much different. I'm very excited. Again, with those coaching changes, with some inevitable new faces on this team, and maybe, just maybe, with some of these players, trying harder because they're in a contract year, or maybe even Jordan Montgomery deciding to not pick up his player option, which is crazy as that sounds. Some people writing articles are suggesting he might have reasons to do that. So I don't know. But what I do know is I'm very thankful for all of you guys being here. And I look forward to not covering any more Dodgers-Yankees games. I promise you that. I do look forward to tomorrow. Like you said, Archie will be here, so he'll bring the good vibes.
He'll bring some positivity.
We'll talk about a lot of things with him, including some rumors, once again, kind of stoking that fire that Paul Goldschmidt might be returning to the Valley, and some other faces that might be connected to the Diamondbacks this offseason. So, of course, join us here. We will be back tomorrow for a 1 p.m. show and 1 p.m. for the foreseeable future. You guys asked what else we got coming on as far as baseball goes. We got Arizona Fall League. I talked about that Fall Stars game, talked about that home run derby. That's coming up here in November soon. The championship game is probably less than, 3 weeks away now. So go out and watch some fall ball. It's some fun. It's cheap. It's a great time. It's a great atmosphere. And especially if you just want to relax. If you want to relax and you love baseball, fall ball is the place to go.
And I'm making also lovely now.
Yeah, the weather's great. Bring a jacket, and I mean that. That's not just me saying 95 degrees is hoodie weather. So, but again, we do appreciate every single one of you. So we will be bringing you some Fall League coverage, Ryan. So don't miss out. We missed Nick Carter singing the anthem today from the Backstreet Boys. So maybe we didn't miss out on anything, but we will be bringing you plenty of Fall League coverage. Of course, we do. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at @cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Our guy Kev is at Kev Tom Wrights. Of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks. By the way, it's Kev Tom Wrights, aka Large Intimate. I'm going to get him to change his Twitter handle to that one of these days. But of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks. So follow us there. And then, of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, hope you have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when the Dodgers don't win anything at all, ever.
We all silly like the mayor.